Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Entab Presents CampusCare EdTalks. So, teenage is by far the most interesting phase of anyone's life. The school years, those friendships, those hormonal changes, facing new things both in personal and academic life are just overwhelming. However, sometimes these flooding of new changes brings along with it some very serious challenges that teens find difficult to cope up with. But with the proper communication, guidance, and support from the adults, they can pass this phase with good memories. So, today in Entab Campus Care Ed Talks, we will talk about one of those issues that every parent is very concerned about, that is, depression in students. So, guys, various reports published over the years have consistently painted a grim of picture of Indian youths and the rising suicide culture among youths in India. So, according to NCRB data, more than 10,000 students died by suicide in 2018, and there were about 381 suicides daily in 2019. How worse can it be, right? So, to discuss in length about this issue, we have with us a seasoned educator who, apart from academic delivery, has been catering to different needs of an educational organization over a period of 20 years. Starting with a humble background as a humanities teacher with her diversified skills, she rose to become a head of the organizations. So, apart from heading schools, she has also served as joint secretary of the executive committee of members of International Schools Association, and she's both a mentor to her academic team and a pedagogical leader. She strongly believes that every child matters equally, and hence she enforces principles of equality, equity, and fairness in school. For her emphasis that student must give back to the society, ma'am's learning centric and socially responsible pedagogical attitude is hugely praised. So, in her guidance, Nahar International School has reached new heights and recognized for its excellence by respectable organization. Please welcome Vandana Arora, ma'am, Principal of Nahar International School, Mumbai. Welcome to Campus Care Ed Talks, ma'am.
Thank you. Thanks.
So, ma'am, coming directly to the question, why is this situation becoming worse over the years?
So, Nimisha, I think just to move further, I would like to set some context of development happening in the country, which has a clear influence on the situation of students. With the speedy development of economic, we also have a lot of other issues which are developed. Economic development has brought in some other issues, and one of that is the increase in loneliness in the kids and a huge amount of pressure on them to perform better. We all know we are a big country which has a huge number of students who are being every year moving in the workforce. At the same time, they don't have the same kind of we don't have the same kind of infrastructure available for higher education in our country and the jobs available for them, which lead to a lot of competition. Any which ways, the country's larger belief system, to some extent, because of being a developing country, is also very highly towards competitive spirit, which does bring a huge pressure on kids at a younger age. When they enter into teen, like you rightly said, that's the age where you're trying to explore, where you're trying to see a lot of things. What comes immediately in front of you is a huge pressure of performing better. Um, you are going through hormonal changes, you are going through confusion in your mind, what's right, what's wrong. You are trying to figure out to be, am I a child or I'm becoming an adult? You are in that stage. All this is being kept in the second line. What becomes primary for these kids to have conversation with all the adults around them is about how are you performing in your academics. This bigger question does bring a lot of pressure on them. So they are supposed to perform. They are supposed to perform very well in their examination. The system is such. Whereas they get confused on, why am I only be talked about I need to perform well in exam, whereas my life is beyond this examination. This definitely lead to a lot of pressure on them. which is something which we see as schools today is bringing a difficult phase and also leading to problems like depression in the teens.
And ma'am, as an educator, what are the signs of stress and anxiety in children that you must be observing maybe these days or earlier when students were present in school?
Right. So, yeah, when they were present in school, we can clearly see it in front of us.
Yeah.
But even in these days, when we are working online, we can clearly see those things. The amount of aggression increasing in them, or excessive quietness increasing in them, the sleep pattern, which is generally disturbed in teenagehood, because that's how the body works. It's being not just disturbed, but it also is affected at a larger level with very little sleep or excessive sleep. Eating habits, they hardly eat for months, or eat excessively. Sign, again, we see them not communicating with adult, which is common in teenagehood. They don't like communicating with adults because they're figuring it out. But if that is also leading to not communicating with their own teachers, with their own peers, going into a shell completely, not responding to any kind of discussion or any kind of questioning coming, all these are the signs which are visible, and they are increasingly visible to us.
And ma'am, sometimes parents they misunderstood the depression. So how can parents identify if this is just a normal behavioral change or a brewing anxiety that can lead to depression?
I think the first sign which is visible to you if it is for a long period of time, lack of communication. Also, you are getting hints from the school, because it's not just that you observe, because sometimes as parents you are overly concerned, so you see a normal change in the behavior as something to be worried about, or sometimes you can also ignore because you don't understand those things that much. Not everyone is an expert, but always these hints come from the schools. So if you're getting those kind of hints from school where your teachers are communicating to you or school is communicating to you about lack of interest in your child, and which is being over a period of time, lack of communication through your child, which is over a period of time, and you yourself also see those changes which I just mentioned before, either in terms of sleep or in terms of food. You're also seeing higher level of anxiety among the children. Say, for example, not being willing to contribute towards something which is being asked for. The level of aggression you see is on a very high side. Little bit aggression again is a very common aspect of teenagehood, and in fact is good also. So if they get upset or angry with you, it's very common at this age. But if it is too much that you can't even handle, it is leading to destruction of certain things, either at home or to themselves. These are certain things which are visible over the period of time. So one is, are you communicating on regular basis? If there is regular communication happening, you can actually catch these things because you see a change in behavior which is drastic. Second, the school. Are you having communication with school or getting some kind of information from school? And third, definitely peers who will also hint you, the friends circle, where you can get some kind of.
And ma'am, as you just talked about, so today's kids they are exposed to mass media more than ever. So be it games, be it mobile phones, or social media, web series, the whole web is open to them, and a lot of negativity comes from there. So media literacy is the need of the hour. So how can parents keep a check on programs or screen time, and etc.
So here I would say that keeping a check is not the need. Because you, by keeping a check, you might still not be able to reach out to your child about what's right and what's wrong for him and how much exposure is needed. The larger issue is that why are they moving towards that? That means there is a lack of a normal communication channel. There is a lack of them not being able to express their needs to the immediate adults whom they feel comfortable to. Then obviously you're going to fulfill that need through all other through these kind of attractive mediums. But if you have a regular communication channel open with your child, if you're not interacting with your child at this age, especially with your teen at this age, with the focus of judging the teen, because most of the teenagers are very sensitive about their belief set, right? Same like adults, we are sensitive about certain things for us.
That is true, ma'am.
Without understanding what they are sensitive about, if we only try to check them, preach them, tell them what is right and wrong, it naturally closes a open door of communication. And when that door is closed, not easy for you to keep a check. So instead of keeping a check, what I always have uh, recommended the teachers and the parents is keep the communication. Try to listen more than tell. Try to understand what they are going through. Also, try to figure what is it that they are exploring on that media. Sometimes it's good for you them and they are watching. Sometimes it's for you sit them and play their game, because through that you understand what kind of games are they playing, what kind of media are they exposed to, is it a worth exploring media, and then having a communication, having a conversation around that makes a lot of difference, where you do share your viewpoint with the child, not with perspective of judging the child, but guiding the child in a more gentler way of what can be harmful and how much can be harmful.
And so, ma'am, we just talked about communicating and discussing about effective measures. Communication can resolve so many issues. So, how can parents
True.
create that space where kids, without fearing, can walk up to them to talk about their mental issues or things like bullying or why they are not performing well?
So again, as I said, opening channel of communication means that we as adults have to change, which is not easy for adults.
Yes.
Changing with respect to listening for the sake of understanding, not just listening. If a child comes at a younger age, because these things doesn't start at teenage, they start at a younger age. The hints were there. That time it was maybe ignored, but now it might be coming with a more stronger reaction towards it. It comes with the understanding. Example, a child says, "I'm being bullied by another child," or "I'm not being treated well about other child." How would you sit and that time actually show the child a concern, saying, "Oh, is it true? Let me understand what you're going through." Instead of saying, "Oh, this happened, you have to deal with it like that," right? There's a lot of time we give importance to what a child is sharing, and they stop sharing. Uh, mm, Things like when a class you didn't perform, it's like, how can help? I see you not perform. Can I be of some help to you? Can I help you to suggest some so that it improves? So it's just that you are asking the same question, but you are asking in a different way. Where you are showing the child, I'm concerned about you, not about your performance, not about your image in the world, not about what people think. In India, it is an issue, and we all have to accept that fact that a lot of time we are more bothered about what people say, what people think,
And
instead of what I feels. So this feeling of this young adult, these teenager, are equally important, and they need to be given a listening ear.
And ma'am, as we are just talking about mental issues, World Mental Health Day just passed by on 10th October. And as you just talked about, in India, we talk about what people are gonna think, what society is gonna think, and there is a stigma around seeking help from mental health experts, and this aggravates the situation. So, what advice would you give to the parents and our viewers on this?
I think we need to start accepting the fact that these issues are real issues.
Yeah.
They are not just for the name's sake. And the minute you accept that it is a real issue, then you have to also figure out that there are professionals to help. It's as simple as if you have a fever, you will go to the doctor.
Doctor,
You
yes.
won't avoid, right? But if you have these kind of issues where there are these signs visible, we start feeling we start thinking that we can change it without realizing that the way your physical body needs a professional, your mental body also needs a professional. That is something which I would always say, that if you see signs, if you see the schools are approaching you or the teacher is approaching you for these kind of things, do not hesitate to approach a psychologist, do not hesitate to approach a counselor. And also, once you get some tips, do work on them, do accept them wholeheartedly, the way you accept medicine for fever, cough and cold. Do accept this, do accept an advice on it, because many of these issues, especially in teenagers, can be solved by, as I said, creating an environment which is conducive for the growth of the child. And sometimes, as adults, we don't realize what's a conducive environment for a child, because of simple reasons of, while we were growing up, that was a different time and era.
Yes.
While they are growing up, it's a different time and era. That means they require something different, neither less nor more, but something different with respect to the environment in which they.
So, ma'am, any before ending the session, any closing remarks for the parents?
Sure, I would definitely tell every parent that while your child is growing up in a teenagehood, it's a beautiful phase of life for them. Let it be more beautiful by you being there as a support for them and as a learner from them. As an educationist for a period of time, and dealing with a lot of teenagers, we all have realized that this generation has a lot to offer. They are more exposed, they are more aware, and they have a lot of energy in them that can help us to learn from them. The minute you change your perspective of teaching them, or you being able to providing them, to that of you can learn something from them, it creates a different channel of learning between parent and child. When your child was young, in the primary years, in younger years, you've taught them a lot, you've given them a lot. Now it's time for them to also give you something, and that could be their new way of thinking. If we accept their new way of thinking, if we are open to listening to what they are saying, if we are open to also exploring the world through them, it is where you and your child will create a beautiful relationship, and that relationship makes your child realize that whether the world believes in on him doesn't matter. Whether he performs well on exams or not doesn't matter. But what matters is my parent loves me and cares for me. This message, once reaches to a child, and to any child, that child definitely can cross any hurdle or any examination or any trouble which comes in their life. So do reach out to your child, do reach out to schools for help, do reach out to counselor and psychologist if you see any support, and be open to changing yourself. It's tough to change as adults, but it's important for the sake of our children.
Of course. Thank you so much, ma'am. And I hope everyone have understood the the symptoms and tips given by ma'am, so that they can help your children to fight against depression and anxiety. And thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us today at EdTalks.
Thank you. Thanks a
Thank
lot,
you,
Nisha.
ma'am. Bye, ma'am.
Bye.